Well, hello, everyone. Like Jess said, my name is Cedric Fonville, as you can all surely read there under Coffee Connections. And it is a pleasure to be here speaking to you all. And first off, I hate to start off with an apology, but I'm actually doing this session from a college campus in Bentonville, Arkansas. I had the opportunity to go to a government contracting class just before this, and I couldn't turn it down. So I'm using their computers, which is a MacBook, and I'm an Android user. So there's a little bit of formatting differences from my computer screen to their screen, but I'm still confident we can get the message and the content across in a very effective way. So to give you guys a little bit of background information, my company, as you can see here, is NICE. I'm the CEO of that, but I do want to learn more about you guys so I can cater this into more of a conversation rather than just a lecture. So I appreciate the introduction, and I do want to get introductions from you guys. So I'm going to slide down instead of using left and right as we progress from one slide to the next. And this here is just an overview of what we'll be talking about today. So we have introductions. I'll introduce myself here on the next slide, and then I also want to hear from a handful of you guys, what you do for your companies or within your roles. If we have time, if we have more faces, then we can put into a short 15-minute presentation, then maybe just a few volunteers can do that for us. Then we'll jump into the topic of today, and then we'll follow that up with a little bit of tips and suggestions in terms of addressing any kind of questions you guys may have on how you can be more effective at implementing some of the stuff we're going to learn today. But like I said, I really want this to be a conversation. So if you have any questions, even before we get to the Q&A portion here, feel free to jump right in, clarify anything. If you're like me, I like to ask questions so I really understand stuff. And I love to learn. And one way I can learn is to hear questions and get feedback that way. So let's jump right into it. The first part, the part I like to get past the quickest, is the About Me section. I think all of you are from different states, except for a few of us are from Arkansas. So I am an Arkansan, born and raised, first 18 years of my life. And when I turned 18, graduated high school, I had every motive in my body to leave Arkansas and see what else was out there. So I joined the Navy, spent 6 years in the Navy as an avionics electronics technician, fancy title. And I got stationed in Florida, Hawaii, and Japan. So I had a blast. And I was loving the city. I was not meant to go back to the country. But unfortunately, I decided to get out of the military, go to school, and the cheapest usage of my dollars was to go back to Arkansas as a resident there and get my degree there. So I did that. 4 years of school, got my degree in finance and business management, started a company just after that. And that's kind of how I got to where I am now, which is in Bentonville, Arkansas currently. And I have on here my affiliations, and that is because it's kind of relevant to what we're going to be talking about today. And one thing that is not on here is that I am an introvert, which I tell people that today, and they look at me with a lot of surprise and disbelief, but I am definitely still an introvert. And some of the ways I can tell is when I go into a networking event, one of the worst things I hate to walk into is a whole hour of just mingling and networking, and there's no structured agenda. Or if I'm on an airplane, I have to sit next to a stranger. I'm the kind of person who puts on headphones. I'll say hello, but I don't want to have a full conversation with a stranger. So I know I still have some introverted ways built into my DNA. So that's a little bit about me. I want to learn a little bit more about some of your jobs in terms of your roles within your company. And I know some of you are CEOs, executive directors. So if we can have a few volunteers, if we have enough time, I don't know how many people are here in attendance. Can you give me information on how many people are here, Jess? Jess?
Sorry, I had self-mute. If you want to introduce yourself to Cedric, just unmute your microphone. And Cedric, there's about 8 or 9 of us here, I think, today.
Excellent. Okay, so maybe we can have 20 or 30 seconds, just who you are, where you're from. What you do is kind of the primary thing I would love to know, but try to keep it short as possible. Whoever wants to start.
Hi, Cedric. My name is Melanie, and I am in Oregon, Illinois, and I'm the campus director and outdoor education coordinator at Laredo Taft Field Campus for a residential outdoor education and conference center.
Thanks, Melanie.
My name's Jamie, and I work in Tustin, Michigan at a facility that's owned and operated by the Michigan 4-H Foundation, and I am the operations manager, so I get to do all the bookings for the conferences.
All right. Thanks, Jamie.
Cedric, I'm Steve Remage. I'm the director at the Episcopal Conference Center in Oakhurst, California.
Thanks, Steve. Any other takers, volunteers?
I'm Charles Wallace, and I am a long-time worker in conference centers and small institutions. And for the last decade or so, I've been working as an organizational development professional where I do turnarounds in conference centers and other institutions that need some redevelopment and new direction. And I'm also an active member in IACA and chair of the Education Committee.
Excellent. It's like you stay busy, Charles. Thank you.
For a guy that's mostly out of work, I have a really tight schedule.
Retired people are some of the hardest workers, I've learned.
True.
All right. Did we miss anyone who wants to come forward?
I'm Carol Ann Chase, and I'm with Christian Camp and Conference Association. I am a business member, and we do training and provide resources for different camps and conference centers.
All right. Thanks, Carol Ann. Maybe one more? Unless that's everyone. I can't see faces right now. I can only see my slide deck, which might be a benefit. I don't know. All right. Well, let's jump right into it. Thank you all for the introductions. I'm taking notes here on my notepad. So if you see me looking down, that's what it's for. Well, I'd love to get the conversation kind of the groups I'm a part of that consists of a lot of CEOs, and some of the people who are in the junior roles, I like to ask, what does a CEO do? And I know that question can be answered with a cookie cutter answer, but we have some bullet points here to kind of give you an idea of some of the duties that tie into most CEO roles. And I just want to highlight those because it's going to be a good segue into what we're talking about. And some of the things that most CEOs or leaders in a position who are acting in a role very similar to a CEO want to take ownership of is being a strategist, an ambassador, an inventor, a coach, student. I don't have to read it. I know you guys can read it. But I also wanted to see if you guys had any input or in additions to this list that you think would be really important qualities of a CEO. And if you're not a CEO, maybe you have a CEO mindset or a CEO within your company that you would like to add to this list. Because I would love to grow this list and know what the ideal CEO looks like. Does anyone have any additional input in terms of their epitome of a good CEO? All right. Well, we don't have anything. Well, I think some things that stick out off this list for me particularly is the ambassador role. And as a CEO, you want to be an ambassador to your brand, which means you have to be passionate about it. You have to be a believer of it, a supporter, and essentially the face of it. So what we're going to be talking about today is going to be how we can be more successful in our roles, even if it's not specifically a CEO role or whatever the role may be, simply by just connecting and meeting new people. And I really am passionate about this because as an introvert, I never had an interest in going out, shaking hands and exchanging business cards with complete strangers because it was just not in my DNA. I'd much rather just go to an event such as church or a conference, get the information I came there for, and just leave as soon as I can. But today I want to kind of help people who are introverts out there like I used to be, and like I still am at heart, realize the value in meeting new people and how you can just connect with people in order to build personal, professional relationships that will ultimately tie into you being more successful in whatever quest you have for yourself. And another, all of us, excuse me, all of us want to be good leaders, or at least we need to understand what a good leader is so we can take the information we learn or the information that we're absorbing from these connections and applying it in a more effective way. So some of the topics that I thought would be most relevant for a good leader would be having a leader or a person in charge who is very adaptive and being able to adjust to the team they have around them, adjust to the environment, whether that be a business climate or adjust to the city or the economic standards, and also has a concern and a care for the people around them. So I wanted to make sure that we highlight some of these important aspects, including being passionate, which I touched on earlier. And I don't know if we're going to be more participative in this question, but I do want to leave that question mark here on purpose to see if there's any input or additional things you guys think should be included in this list, as in what makes a good leader good. So does anyone have any additional input that we can add to this list?
Again, I have unmuted everybody, so you're free to talk.
All right, well, we do have a Q&A session, so if you have any input, feel free to interject and we'll adjust accordingly. And here's another one of my formatting issues in terms of good communications. So this whole presentation is going to be built around being a better communicator, and you're going to need to be at least efficient at communicating in order to pull off this networking and professional relationship building. So let's just get right into it so we can get done in time. And as I mentioned earlier, the whole purpose of this talk is to try to express to you guys something I really had an aha moment for, or a light bulb went off. And that was when I learned to connect with other people as a way of helping me be more successful in my quest. And as a CEO, my whole goal, we're only about a year old now, was to get off to a very fast start with the company and just be successful like everyone else wants to do when they open a company. But the chances of succeeding in a CEO role are very, very much in the minority. So I understand that it takes a lot of work, and I'm a very prideful guy. So one of the struggles I had was I like to play what I call hero ball and think that I can do everything myself because I can do it the way I want to do it on my timeline under my conditions. And I learned that the hard way. It's so much better if we can be collaborative about what we do and be more open about what we're working on. So I wanted to put together just top 5 benefits of what I've learned in the past year in terms of how we can benefit from just getting to know new people, or rebuilding, strengthening the current relationships we have around us, whether that be friends, family members, teammates, subordinates, seniors, or complete strangers at events like conferences, Chamber of Commerce networking events, at gas stations, wherever it may be. So here's a list of my top 5 things, and these are in increasing order. So we'll start with 5 and go down to number 1, with number 1 being probably the most important benefit. But let's just jump right into it. So the number 5 thing in terms of why I think everyone should go out of their way to be intentional about networking and meeting new people is that you get a chance to increase the amount of things you learn through other people's experiences and knowledge. And if you're like me, you were very sheltered growing up in Arkansas. You're not exposed to a lot of things that happen outside of that state. So here you get a chance to meet new people who have been exposed, people who traveled overseas, people who had different job duties and roles that you haven't had. And you can learn a lot more from them without actually having to go through those same experiences, just through conversations, just learning, what is it about this job that you love? What is it you didn't love so much? Or maybe you're stepping into a role that someone else has previously served in. So you can just pick their brain, get some feedback, and really learn very efficiently just by connecting with other people and just sharing in their experiences and their knowledge. So our 4th strongest reason in terms of why I really encourage people to get out there in the community and just engage and network and build those relationships with intentionality is that you get a chance to work on your communication skills. So as a leader, as a CEO, as a director or operations manager, whatever it may be, we all know communication is vital to success in terms of getting the message across in a way that's clear and understood by all people involved. So if you don't practice communicating, it's very hard to be an effective communicator. And one of the things I've done is enrolled in some professional development services and opportunities as a means of improving my communication skills and just getting outside of my bubble of being completely introverted. So Dale Carnegie is one of those ones that I do a lot of speech giving and human relations training on. And one of the things we have to do is we learn a lesson and we have to go apply it the same week. We have to put it into practice and come back and kind of give a synopsis of what we learned. So here I would just want to encourage you guys to network, get to know people, because it's going to really help you become a lot better at communicating your passion, your nonprofit or your role, your fundraiser, whatever it is you're trying to get across that internally is valuable to other people. And then on to our 3rd strongest benefit here. If you're out in the community, meeting new people, telling them who you are, you're really doing a favor to yourself by getting your name out there. And I call this more along the lines of mobile marketing. So more people know about you equals more people who can support you, buy from you, donate to you, help you in whatever manner you want to put that. So I want to encourage you guys to not keep your ideas a secret. Don't keep your challenges a secret. If you're struggling with something that's really complicated and you're trying to figure it out on your own and you're just not making any kind of timely progress, go out there, find people who are subject matter experts or friends or just trusted confidants, and just let them know, this is what I'm dealing with. Maybe you can provide some kind of different perspective, or maybe they can provide you with a connection to somebody who can provide you with the expertise you need to overcome that. So it can save a lot of time just by getting your name out there and letting people know who you are, what you're working on. And the next one is very similar in nature. Our second strongest benefit, but there's a little bit of a difference here. So become known by and also know of everyone. So the more people you meet, you'll notice that more people are familiar with you even before you've met them, in terms of they heard your name from a friend or a colleague. And as you all know, in marketing and in business, people like to buy from, and you can substitute the word buy with whatever service you're providing, people they know, like, and trust. So this part here is really all about getting your name out there so people know about you. And it makes it so easy, or so much easier for you to get a conversation with a big executive or a potential donor when they recognize your name rather than having to explain who you are and why you're calling them. So that's our second strongest benefit in terms of getting out there and building those relationships. And then the one that I want to talk about is like the highlight and my number one benefit in terms of building that professional and personal relationship is that the more people you know and the more people you connect with increases the chances that you can build that looks like my screen was paused. Let's go back to that. The more people you know, the more people you can build as a support team around who you are and what you're doing. And this is really important because whatever role you're serving in, you're always going to come to a point where you're stuck and you can't figure something out, or you need some kind of resource that you alone can't provide in whatever timeline you need it by. So maybe you're trying to get donations, maybe you're trying to get sales, maybe you're trying to move up the corporate ladder into a profession, or you're trying to get something done that is really going to take a tremendous amount of effort or a tremendous amount of input and help from other people. When you have people that you've already built relationships with, whether that be friends, coworkers, subordinates, whatever it may be, who are already bought into you as a person, they are already familiar with your brand, they're already familiar with your associations, your affiliations, and they really know, respect, and trust you, it's so much easier to reach out to them when you get into those times of needs. And for example, I have a very, what I call, untraditional relationship with my brothers and sisters, because we're not as emotionally driven as most families, where we don't hug each other, we don't really tell each other we love each other, and if we do, they might look at us kind of crazy, like, are you dying? Do you have cancer? What's the diagnosis? So through this business as a startup stage, in the first couple of months, we were really struggling with getting off the ground and getting our first big sales that would make us sustainable. And as a result, and being a little bit over ambitious in terms of what I thought would happen in the first couple of months, we needed a little bit of investment or income to hold us over to pay for some of the services that we were using for professional development. And I've never asked for money from a single person in my entire life, aside from maybe $5 or $10 for lunch. But I needed about $3,000 here, and I had to reach out to people and ask for money for the first time, which is a super humbling experience. But what I did learn through that process is that as soon as I did, I had people who were jumping through hurdles and hoops to give me whatever it is I needed, and they were happy to do it. They felt like it was a gift to be able to give it to me, simply because we had already established a relationship where they knew about what I was working on. They were supporters and they were fans, and they really wanted to see me succeed. And the only reason they knew that stuff is because they were part of the conversations. When I was starting this idea a year ago, they were part of the feedback group, giving me advice and suggestions, and they were really just bought into me personally as a person because of the relationships. And sometimes I sit down with someone who I've never met outside of at a networking event. I have coffee with them for an hour, and at the end of the conversation, they'll end the conversation saying, how can I help you get to where you're trying to go? And it's just amazing to me, because some of these people are mayors, and some of these people are CEOs of $10 million companies. Some of these people are like Jess, the CEO of Mount Sequoia. And it's super reinvigorating and remotivating for somebody who's going through a downturn to sit down with somebody who's a complete stranger or someone that is just looking to help you get to the next level. And I know we have about 9 minutes, and I want to make sure we get to the end of this. So here I have a bonus one. So we have 5 plus a bonus. And the biggest thing I do want to stress is that the more people you connect with, the more people that you put into your network, the more opportunities you're going to have for yourself. But also you'll have a chance to help others through these same opportunities. And we all know in business, it's all about who you know more so than what you know. So the more people you know, the more opportunities you'll have to name drop and make stuff happen for other people you come into contact with. So this group here, I'm sure you guys all know each other pretty well. And I would love to encourage you guys to work with each other to figure out how you can help each other, even though you might be in different roles and in different states, because it is so rewarding not only to receive help, but also to be able to give help back in return. And with that, I do want to open the floor for questions or any kind of clarifications here and let you guys know that you can definitely be just as successful and introverted as the guy that you admire most in your life just by giving to others and just establishing those relationships in a very intentional way. So I do want to open the mics up again, Jess, if you can. Let the floor just be completely open to any questions, comments, or suggestions.
The mics are open. Thank you, Cedric.
Thanks, Jess.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Situation, actually.
All right.
You are walking into a room.
Uh-huh.
There are about 50 people there. You don't know anyone.
Uh-huh.
What's your best opening line?
Well, the question I asked earlier in the conversation, I know you all introduced yourselves, is basically a very organic, who are you, what do you do? And then you let the conversation kind of flow. But if you want a more strategic resource for it, I know some of the things we learned in our classes is you have a conversation template, but basically it starts with the very generic questions. Who are you? What do you do? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? Where are you from? Do you have any hobbies? These are some of the tools they teach us in these Dale Carnegie programs and how to get a conversation that's going stale to move forward, or just to have something in your head that you can cycle through if the person you're talking to is not very comfortable talking to a complete stranger. So that would be the best answer I can give you there. How's that?
Thanks.
You're welcome. Good question, by the way. Any other scenarios or questions?
Hey, Cedric, Steve here, would interject from Dale Carnegie that an instructor shared with us in a course that he pictured, walking up to a house.
Yeah.
The garage was open and the front door was open and a fellow was standing on the stoop. And he said, I kind of visualized that as I approach a conversation I know where they live now. I want to know more about them. What are their hobbies? I can see this in the garage or that in the garage. So maybe creating an image for yourself might help you,
Yes.
walk through some of those initial questions you might have of somebody when you meet them.
Excellent point, Steve. Yeah, if you ever take a Dale Carnegie class, I'm actually one of the graduate assistants. So I've been in 3 consecutive training classes to become a facilitator. They do teach you that visual representative way of learning how to go through the conversation stack, as they call it. And I'm not representing Dale Carnegie here, so don't trademark anything I say here. But it's a conversation stack, and it's just a visual story that you tell yourself as a way of remembering what to talk about next. It doesn't have to be in one set order, but it just gives you a lot more of a firm template, as Steve suggested. So thank you, Steve, for sharing that. And if you need more information about that, I'll be happy to talk to you offline about what that picture looks like.
Cedric and I were having lunch about a week ago, and I mentioned to him that that's one of my biggest fears, is walking into a room of, like Charles said, 50 people and I don't know anybody, because I also, those who know me know that I tend to be a quiet person. I'm an introvert. But I always try to look for a connection. When I do get the guts to walk up to somebody, I look for a connection. It might be it might be sports, or it might be skiing, or it might whatever. But I realize that there are a lot of things that I can talk about once I know there's a connection that the other person is interested in. I also look for a connection.
Great point. And another thing, if you want to be more creative, And I'm not sure who asked that question. Was that Charles who asked the original question?
Yeah.
Okay. If you want to be more creative and not start off with a very traditional cliche answer, you can always start with a compliment. Like I like to do is if I see somebody across the room who's wearing a very nice blazer or a jacket or nice shoes or nice glasses, whatever it is, I'll just walk up to them very randomly and say, man, I really love those glasses. Where'd you get those from? And then let the conversation just flow from there. And you can try to pick something that you honestly like. You know, you don't want to flatter them, but that's another technique you can use, a little bit more indirect. Looks like we have 4 minutes. Anyone else have anything that's been challenging for them specifically? Or maybe everyone here is a social butterfly already. Someone's laughing. How about Melanie and Carol Ann? I haven't heard from either of you. You want to offer any advice to others if you're natural extroverts? It might come in handy for us.
This is Melanie, and I am not an extrovert. I'm very much an introvert, and have what I think has been great to hear from the others who have commented is that I'm not alone.
Yeah, you're definitely not. And I'm definitely a more introvert. When I go to a group of 50 or so people, I like to stick with the group I attended that meeting with, the people I already know. Mm-hmm. So it does take a little bit more work to intentionally put yourself out there and shake hands. And I think it's like diving into a cold water pool. I hate cold water. You just got to just make that jump. And then once you start talking, it pretty much locking yourself into the commitment. So hopefully everyone here will go out and just try and experiment with it and see how it goes. Because never as scary as it may seem. At least that's my experience. How about, and that was Melanie, right?
Yes.
Carol Ann, do you have any extra input that you
Well, I'm an extrovert, so
okay.
Talking to others is pretty easy. But our CEO is an introvert, so and he's been really helpful in explaining where he comes from, but he's the one who has to stand up in front of 1,000 people. So I really like the compliment, and I think that from Dale Carnegie, I could probably get some nice ways to kind of jump in, to the mix with something that will appeal to them to talk about themselves. I like that. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'm a big supporter of Dale Carnegie, and it's done a lot of good work for me. And most people assume I'm extroverted these days. So I could assume that's a testimony to just some of the stuff I've been learning in that class and just in general. So it's like we have roughly a minute or so remaining. So if you guys have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to Jess, and he can always point you in my direction. If you want that visual from Dale Carnegie, I'll do my best to give you a painted picture of what that looks like. If you have any additional comments, suggestions, or tips, feel free to connect with me through Jess, or however you can easily reach out to me. I'm also online as well. So thank you guys for your time today, and I really appreciate being able to speak to you all, and let me know if I can be of any assistance to anyone here.
Thanks so much, Cedric. And just a reminder that we will not be having a coffee break next month in December. We hope you enjoy your families for the holiday season. And we'll pick this back up on the 3rd. What's today? Tuesday or Thursday? Thursday. I'm away from the office. I lose track. The 3rd Thursday of each month at 1:30 Eastern, starting up again in January, and you will get reminders by email. Thanks so much, Cedric, and thanks everybody for joining us. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye now.